Welcome, everybody, to another wonderful episode of Sip and Chat with Charlene and Shree. And want to go ahead and ask, what's in your cup? Because I know it's a little cold outside and a little rainy for some places, but it's always good to ask, what do you have in your cup? So I'm going to go ahead and let Charlene answer that question along with introducing herself.
Well, hello, everyone. Today I am strictly cranberry, and that's all I got right now. But I am Charlene Brown, the brand misfit, and I help my clients not only build amazing websites that are functional, but learn how to use them as a structured and foundational part of their marketing so they can be not only seen, but actually be seen as credible.
And my name is Shree. I'm still drinking the water challenge that I'm on. And I am a video visibility coach. I help entrepreneurs and solopreneurs who struggle to get on camera by helping them build visibility to their brand and business by using the power of video and live streaming. And so tonight's guest, I'm so excited. I actually met her on Clubhouse and then through another mutual friend of ours who we had on as a guest, Lydia. And so she is such a wonderful friend. And and she got engaged last week, like literally just last week. Her name is Dr. Caroline Iskovitz. She is an author. She has a doctorate in psychology, a female entrepreneur, wellness consultant, speaker, YouTube creator, and so much more. Let's go ahead. Hello, Dr. Caroline, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with both of you.
Yeah.
Great having you.
What do you have in your cup?
Well, if it was earlier, it would definitely be coffee, like someone just mentioned, but I'm drinking Brew Doctor. I'm obsessed with these. It's blood orange ginger. So good. So good.
Ooh.
And
are you a kombucha drinker, Charlene?
I had it earlier in my, I would say, my life, and then I just moved away from it. I like the ginger, that version. I like that.
Good.
So we have a few people drinking water like me and coffee. And if you have coffee, what's really in that coffee? Have you added some Irish cream, some Baileys? Let us know in the comments. So Dr. Caroline, tell us a little bit about you and how did you go from working with patients and consulting or counseling to being a coach, and what kind of coach are you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the journey, it was not smooth sailing. I absolutely loved being in the therapy world. I'm such an advocate for it still. Mental health is so important for everybody. But really, it comes back to my life in that time period. I was really going through so many turmoil situations, and I had to really look at myself. And I started doing more work, my inner work. I was already seeing a therapist prior because every great therapist has their own therapist, so they can really deal with everything going on. But for me, I started to realize I had a really bad breakup. I had a really bad roommate situation. And it was my life was unfolding and unraveling at the same time. And when I started doing that work, I realized that I wasn't internally happy. There was something like missing. And I lived in California at the time, and I would go hiking all the time. And I just had this epiphany. I was like, I want to start my own business. I always wanted to, but more in the psychology world, and more so too of like opening up my own wellness center. And at the time I was going to school full-time, interning and working for my graduate school. And I was a facilities manager. So I was managing the campus, learning all the ins and outs. I was like, maybe I don't want a wellness center because of all the things that go into entail with that. So moving forward, that was probably my last year after I finished my doctorate. And I practiced for a year. And I just got really burnt out. Like my hair started to fall out. The molars in my back of my teeth were cracking from stress. I dropped probably like 20 pounds and I didn't need to. And it was really a ripple effect of all the stress I was under. It was the chronic stress. And I didn't even know I was like that stressed out where things were happening in that regard. And I had to really take that step back and look at what was happening. And the burnout just got to me and I realized I'm not happy. And hindsight's 2020, but long story short, I ended up moving back to Florida. I started my coaching business, and I put psychology on the back burner for then. And I just fully put myself into coaching. I started coaching in life and health coaching in particular, and then really discovered my niche in the last 5 years of female entrepreneurs, really helping them in the psychological process of starting a business, because I know how I experienced it. I had no idea what I was doing, to be quite honest. I was like reading things. I hired a coach. I got the information, but applying it is so different when you have that information, and having amazing coaches and things along those lines to really help you grasp what your niche is. But I realized I loved working with other entrepreneurs that were starting out or just really balancing emotionally what was going on, physically what's going on, and then trying to deal with life on top of everything. And I think that's where I really used my psychology background, not doing therapy, but doing coaching. And I fell in love with coaching and just really being able to help people in a different capacity than prior.
Mm. So it's a lot that went on. I'm like processing it all. We're all feeling it. I mean, we got the comment from Robert that says stress is a silent killer. It really is. If you're not having to be able to understand how to cope with it, how it can, even I tell my mom, I'm like, look at how the stress is affecting you with your weight loss, with what's going on and mentally, you're not focused, you're being distracted. We have a question from Robert. How do you think your experience helped you in your current business?
Yeah, I think it really just brought home to now I take breaks. I don't feel guilty about that. Before I would guilt myself, well, I didn't make this amount of money or I didn't get this accomplished, so I don't deserve a break. I was like my worst critic, and I still have to check myself, but I allow myself grace and forgiveness of not being perfect and understanding that we need breaks. We need to understand when our body is saying, take a rest, take a walk, have time, quality time with family or friends or anybody in your life that you need to, or make a quick call. But I really started practicing what I preached even more so, but really embodying that. And when I did that, I noticed such a shift of just taking like a 10-minute break made all the difference of going out, getting some sunshine on my face, and I felt a million times better. But it's the little things in what we do every day. And I think that's what I realized. It's not this big picture. Like you want to focus on the big picture, but you have to break it down into the smaller steps in order for you to realize I need to stop for a second and take a break. So I think that experience really was hard for me to learn, but now it has been so beneficial overall for me and my clients.
Yeah, because I know especially I can relate with from the psychology standpoint, you feel like you know so much, you've been learning it in your coursing and training, but the actions part of it, putting that in action, you can see the difficulty. So I think it also, for me, I can see it, but I want to ask you, do you feel that it helps you relate better with your clients? Because yes, these are the reasons why you have the data to prove why, but you understand the difficulty of implementing the practices that allows your life to be less stressful and a little better. How does that help you with your clients, especially if you can relate to what they're going through?
Yeah. And I used to get this all the time when I was practicing therapy. Like, well, you don't know what I'm going through, or you've never experienced it, because you don't really share too much when you're a therapist unless it's clinically appropriate and things along those lines. And you have to have your boundaries. And it's just very different in coaching. Of course, you want to have those boundaries in coaching too. But I think it just allowed me to be human. And I think I'm a recovering perfectionist, I will say. But it really allowed me to kind of take that step back and recognize it comes in different forms, waves, and really meeting people where they're at, because I was met where I was at through my own therapy, through my own coaches. And I think it just makes it more relatable too, because nobody is perfect and we're constantly a work in progress, but recognizing that too, of it's okay that you're experiencing this, but relating it back to them and what they're going through, so you can help guide them. Because I feel like, I used to say this in therapy and I say it in coaching too, but you're not like pushing them forward, you're not like dragging them, you are like standing side by side, taking each step with them and meeting them where they're at every time.
It isn't easy at first,
No.
but it gets easier over time. So I wanted to ask, how did you know you wanted to work with female entrepreneurs and not like male entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So it started because that's just like my mission is all about women empowerment and really diving into that. I do work with some males, but majority of my clients are female entrepreneurs. But I think it was just more, it was underserved when I had started, I felt. Now things have changed. And I think emotionally we are different, not in a bad way, nothing like that. But I think just how we process things are very different, and responsibilities sometimes are different. But there's so many males that are experiencing similar things, but process it differently. And I think it's a matter of understanding. For me, I just felt like I could relate better because I'm a female. So that's really why it went down that road. But like I said, I do work with a few male clients as well.
In your coaching program, you have 4 pillars. So kind of tell us, what are the 4 pillars and why did you pick those 4 pillars?
Yes, love this question. So it really was my journey, to be quite honest, and how I started taking my clients through that same exact journey. And I realized there was a pattern, and I just monetized on it because it was helping so many people. But it started with understanding your work-life integration. And I don't believe in work-life balance anymore. And I've said that probably a million times at this point, but I think work-life integration is about integrating work and life, because you can never have a perfect balance. There's always going to be something in life happening where you're going to have to attend to different phases of life, and understanding where that works with what you have going on in that moment, and making it more flexible and conducive to your lifestyle. So really helping people build that foundation. Once they have that foundation, it's really working on the self-love piece. Because like with work-life integration, I did not have any balance whatsoever. I created more harmony, but part of that was, when you go a deeper level, it's self-love. So for me, I did not love myself. I thought I did. I really did, but I didn't. And to be quite honest, it was really uncovering those layers of being kinder to myself, having more compassion and forgiving myself, because that was a constant theme. I never felt good enough growing up. Even though I had all these amazing things happening around me, internally I was struggling. And I didn't realize that. I just pushed through it or ignored it or put it on the shelf and was like, oh, it will go away. And it never did. It just got stronger in that voice of just really understanding how important it is that we love ourselves first and foremost before anyone, because then we have more to give. So that was like one of the hardest lessons. And that's like the meat of the core pillars as well. But then once you start to really love yourself, you can set appropriate boundaries for yourself, for others, for work, everything in your life. And because you have that respect and you're honoring yourself from such a core level, it allows those boundaries to be easier to set. They're not always easy, but it makes it more clear of where you want your time and energy to go and what is important and what you value. So that's why boundaries is the third pillar. And then it moves into emotional balance within our relationships, because it's a roller coaster to be a human, let's say, let alone everything else going on. But as an entrepreneur, it's really about understanding how, when it is a roller coaster, how do you handle the psychological process of building a business, your family and friends, if they agree or don't agree, how your time is shifting, if you have a family or starting a family, all those factors play such a big part. So really learning the communication aspect of it and asking for what you need, because now you already have those boundaries, but now being able to effectively communicate it. So that was like my whole process in like a little short span of explaining it. But that's what I've noticed so time and time again with my clients and how they've experienced things, but really taking them through that program.
Yeah, because even when we have the conversation about boundaries, we're always considering first external boundaries, but we never consider, are we setting boundaries for ourselves to follow? So the negative talking, the bad eating habits, the late night eating habits, like all the things that kind of destroys you going to improve your health, improve your mental state. A lot of that we miss out on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even to your point about like the boundaries with ourselves, because when we don't set those boundaries with ourselves, it gives permission for others to cross those boundaries. And it is very difficult. So I'm glad you highlighted that too.
And I'm glad we're talking about boundaries because, we first talked about why you work with women and then understanding how these core pillars came to life. With the holidays coming around, we're sometimes surrounded by certain family members where they like to cross the boundary. So, what are some tips to help some of us who might be around a few interesting people that we don't want to be around, and how to help by even saying no, I don't want to attend? We get the guilt trip. Why you don't want to be around the rat family? Why you don't want to be this? Why do you want to? How how can we get past that? Because I know for some it's super easy. For some, there's just like, I don't know.
It's so tough, to be quite honest. There's no like sugarcoating it. It's very difficult. But I think it really goes back to understanding what you're allowing and what you're not going to allow. And it's really difficult when it's family because you love them. However, there's a certain point when there's things that are toxic or unhealthy that you're not willing to stand for. So it's being able to have a conversation maybe prior to the event if there's no other option and you're like being forced to go or something along those lines, or borderline forced to go because it's family. But I think it's having those conversations prior to the event. So Thanksgiving is right around the corner, but being able to say, I don't want to talk about this. So if this comes up, I'm not going to address it. I'm going to ignore it, and it's done. If it's in person, if you don't want to text them prior, to say, I'm not having this conversation, and walk away. So you're acknowledging it, but you're also setting that boundary. You're not ignoring it. But I think it's setting people up for knowing what your boundary is prior to that. So that's been really helpful for myself, for clients. It's never easy. It's going to be uncomfortable, but just push through the uncomfortability. And it's coming from a place of compassion and love for the other person, but also for yourself. And I think when we reframe that and understand it's not to be rude or be cruel, it's just really about standing your ground and saying, hey, this is where I'm at. And if they don't respect that, that's where you have to make a decision. How are you going to move forward? There doesn't need to be any yelling or screaming, like, because that can sometimes happen from stories I've heard. But just being very honest and transparent. If they don't like that, that's their choice, but you've said what you needed to, and it's just being firm and not going backpedaling.
I hope this helps somebody, and maybe some will. Dan says he's just gonna drink a little bit more to handle the situation. But for Robert, he had the question when you were talking about perfectionism. Did you also suffer from imposter syndrome?
Yes, absolutely. And it's so interesting because I think everybody can be exposed to it or feel it at some point. Not everyone does. If you're very confident, you never experience it. Amazing. But I experienced it a lot. And every time I've up leveled, I've always felt the imposter syndrome because it's something new, it's uncomfortable. Even like when I went from my master's to my doctorate, I was just like, do I deserve to be here? Am I good enough? Like that core issue that I've had throughout my life. And I'm constantly working on, and I've gotten better over the years for sure. But I think it goes back to understanding that it is part of life, but just acknowledging it and knowing that you're absolutely worthy. You are valid. You're important. And no matter what is going on in the outside, like you bring something different to the table. Even if somebody's doing the same exact thing as you have something unique to offer the world. And that's what I remind myself. I have post-its on my mirrors and stuff, just like a little reminder, because I think it's just sometimes it can seep in, but I absolutely struggled with it, and I still do sometimes.
Yes, because the post-its are very helpful. A lot of folks are doing that. And I remember there was an affirmation album put to music and everything, and it was really different.
Yeah.
So that was my go-to right before the pandemic, because I would go to work and that would be the first thing I hear in the morning, and that was the last thing I heard for the evening, and of course, leaving the job, just to de-stress. So for a lot of us who are just struggling, do you have like maybe a podcast or affirmation book recommendation or anything like that?
I'm trying to think. I'm like, oh no, hold on. There's like so many. Oh, what podcast? I was just listening to a podcast the other day about this.
I know Increase Your Impact by Justin Sua, but I don't know if that would sit.
I feel like it was Gold Digger with Jenna Kutcher. I think that's her last name. I know she had a podcast recently. I could be totally wrong, but I know she's had one podcast around that. It's just escaping me at the moment. I'll have to like comment below and like remember.
Go ahead, let us know. I mean, the one that comes to me is Increase Your Impact by Justin Sua, who always gives like 1 to 5 minute, and he just hits you with a nugget every day. And so if that is for you, you're going to remember it. If it's not for you, and he works with high performing athletes from Olympians to professional sports. And so he's working with the top of the top. And so it gets to a point where even they feel like they're just not good enough. And I loved when you were talking about we're all in the same, we can be in the same industry, but we bring our own experience. I have Gabe, and then there is Chris Hennessy. We're all doing remote producing, live streaming. We all bring our own flavor to what we do. I mean, Robert is also a remote producer. We're all unique. Charlene. And if you like us, you'll work with us. If you don't, I have no problem saying, okay, there's all these options, but don't sit on the idea of, I want to do a podcast and then keep wondering who should you work with. Just pick one, get on a call. Like if you want to first figure out how to figure out some things and how to set boundaries, first call Dr. Caroline, then get on a call with one of us and figure out what you want. Yeah. So when you're not coaching or doing wellness, you're doing solar. So how did this come into play?
Yeah, everyone's like, what?
It's random, but it's not.
Yeah, it's random, but it's not. So how I like to look at it, I've been helping people from the inside out and now their environment. But with that, I actually, my fiance now, he's been in the solar industry for a very long time. And I started learning a little bit more slowly and like bringing people towards him, like to get solar for their houses and for their businesses as well. And I was like, wait a minute, this is like really good for the environment. It's really good for the homeowner. They're saving with inflation and electricity and how crazy bills are these days. And it's only going up, but being able to really provide a service that would help people with one of their bills, because for me, it's really about helping people, no matter what it is. Like, even it has nothing to do with business, anything like that, just every day. Like, I want to help somebody in some kind of capacity or bring light to something where they'll feel a little bit better, or a video, whatever it is. But the biggest thing was I just saw how it was like helping the environment, and the homeowner was like, okay, like I kind of want to do this too. And then I ended up being, co-owner. And then it just kind of has snowballed since, and we've expanded across the country. It was already in a few states, but we've really started to grow, and it's been a fun journey. I will say that it's very new to me, but he's been doing it a long time. So it's been really fun to just understand it, learn it, and really being able to help people with their bill.
Wow. So if anybody's looking for some solar, you know who to reach out. And Dan, that is funny. He's asking about Carl. But
he's probably doing homework or taking his rest.
So Dr. Caroline, when you're not doing solar or coaching or wellness, what do you like to read? What books are you reading, and what would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I love one of the books, I just started it recently, of somebody I just interviewed, but it's called Win X, and it's really fascinating. It's just about the steps of really winning in just like business and life, and she outlines all 8 steps. I just started it, so I can't like say too much about it, but I just know it was recommended to me, and then I interviewed her. I was like, oh, I got to read this more. More reason to read it, I should say. But yeah, I love reading. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Clearly earlier, I forgot like half the ones I'm listening to, but that's the story of my life. But I love watching YouTube too, like just learning new things, whatever it is. I mean, solar, I've learned a lot on YouTube from that, and just anything with that's motivating or inspiring. It just puts me in a good mindset, especially first thing in the morning. I'll have like one of those motivational success YouTube channels with like Oprah or somebody amazing. And it gets my head and mind right. And also my heart too, just like reminding me like why I'm doing all the things I'm doing. But I mean, yeah. So the book I'm reading right now is 1X.
So before we answer Gabe's question, you have a show on YouTube. I happen to be a guest.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. And then Gabe is asking, are you open to be a guest on other people's shows?
Absolutely. Without doubt. I love it. I love getting to connect with more people.
So you might have like a few people reaching out, Chris, Gabe,
Yeah.
Charlene reaching out, but tell us a little bit about your show.
Yeah. So it started in January. And I was really hesitant. I sat on it for like 2 years, like what we were talking about earlier. I sat on it for 2 years. I was like, I'm not ready. It's not perfect. It's not like I'm not that great on video. Like all these little imposter syndrome things happening. And then my fiance was like, well, why don't you just start it? Like, just go. And I'm like, well, wait, I need like the right equipment, like all these factors. Like, sure, you've talked about this so many times. So I feel like we're just having this conversation again. But so I started in January, and I started with doing a Monday mindset, and then doing like talking about a quote and talking about that. And then I started doing like these cooking segments and just like healthy, easy, quick cooking things. And for me, I didn't really like to cook until like around January. I started really liking it and putting it on video. And then I started doing interviews, and then everything else went away. And I'm like, I'm just going to focus on interviewing because I love it. And I love getting to meet so many cool individuals, but also showcasing them and their unique gifts to the world. And then I focused only on females at first, but now the floodgates have opened. I'm interviewing males, couples, siblings that work together, but any entrepreneur that has been in business for at least a year, but really being able to showcase them and get their business known and out there, because like I said, everybody has something different to offer. So I've been doing that for almost a year. So it's been fun.
Yeah, because I think when we got together, it was in March or April.
Yeah.
And so it's there. I dropped her links in the comments, so make sure you can find it and see. And if you want to reach out to her, make sure you tell her you saw her on Sip and Chat, so she's not going to think you're some crazy person. And two, she's really big on Instagram too. So definitely if she doesn't reach back on LinkedIn, you definitely can find her on Instagram and Facebook, and also her YouTube as well. And so Charlene, do you have anything else to ask to Dr. Caroline?
No, I will be dropping my show link for you. So I am excited.
Whoa. More the merrier.
So, Dr. Caroline, do you have anything upcoming that's coming out for Black Friday or the holidays so that, everybody on here can be on the lookout for?
I don't have anything. I did co-author a book. It's already out, but it's called Abundance with Anyone. Oh my gosh, I'm like butchering. I'm like, what is it? It's Abundance. It's volume 1 because there's going to be more volumes. But it's all about the abundance of whatever topic each person wrote about. Mine's about energy and vitality, but there's one about the abundance of sex, self-worth, some other really cool miracles, and other factors too. But that's on Amazon.
Ooh, so I'll make sure to drop that link so they can get a copy of the book. Charlene, what you got in the works?
Well, I am officially prepping for my new launch that will be coming out soon. If you want to know more about it, make sure you join my email list. They're going to be the first group to find it and have early access to it. So if you want to be a part of that, head on over to brooklyn.customdesigns.com/join the collective. And I also have available my updated and new guide for how to hire your brand photographer. So I know a lot of people are always wondering, what do they do? What should they get together, get ready? That guide will definitely help you out. And I also made some recommendations for some awesome photographers.
Ooh, that's a good one. Do you know, are they all based on New York or they're all over?
Two of them are based in New York, but the guide will actually help you find a photographer no matter where you are.
Oh, we need to talk.
We do,
Definitely.
because I'm always looking for somebody. And for myself, I have a Facebook community where I give exclusive content that's not on any platform. It's only in the group. Tomorrow we're going live where I'm going to be doing an audit. So if you're in the group, then you get an audit of your video or your live streaming show so I can help you. So Gabe, sorry, not this time. But anybody else, you're more than welcome to join. I'm going to drop the link. And so we just want to say to from Charlene, and I'll let Charlene talk for herself. I just want to say thank you guys, because it's been a year that we've been going and doing this show. And we're just so honored to be able to share this journey with you all. Some moments were great, some moments were not. Sometimes we had mishaps during the live, but you still kept showing up. So we truly, truly appreciate you.
Yes, definitely. And make sure that you guys stay connected with us. We got a couple of good things coming out for 2023. And soon you too will be able to join our list.
Absolutely. So until the next live, which is in December, have a wonderful morning or evening. And thank you, Dr. Caroline, for joining in. And thank you, all the amazing guests that joined us today. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.